Tobacco is one of the two most accepted drugs in society. Nowadays, many people are suffering because of addictions. In the USA, the average of a smoked cigarette per person per year is 1082.87, and in Mexico is about 329.26. These statistics are very worrying, and if we take into consideration all of the diseases that it can cause, it's even worse. Our investigation here is not addressed only to the consumers of the drug, but for the public in general. For them to be informed, to be conscious of what it is happening in their bodies, to know what it would probably happen in the future. This investigation also wants to cover the fact that the young people are consuming this. We're aiming to create an education and culture of health, avoiding and recovering from the addiction adolescent. The investigation, naturally, also aims to reach the mind of the parents in order to care about their children.
Before understanding the different effects that tobacco has in the human body, first we need to understand what is metabolism. Metabolism is taking energy in different forms, breaking it down into its more fundamental form, and then building it up in ways that we can find it useful as energy or structure, so that we can grow, reproduce, and respond to our surrounding. Are chemical substances capable for passing from your body to your brain and cause a change. This change could be good or bad. Many of these are used on pharmaceutical industry to treat or cure some diseases.
Initially, drugs are thick and made to cure or control diseases, but sometimes there are misuse. Some of these misuse that can cause terrible effects are self-medication and over-the-counter ingest of drugs. Illegal drugs are the ones that we need to take more into account, because most of them, when they are taken constantly, are affecting the body and our health. Drug abuse is defined as the current use of illegal or legal drugs which can cause repercussions. Drug dependence can be defined as the state where an organism can function only with the presence of a specific drug. There are two different types related to drug dependence. The first is called physical dependence. This type consists in the need of the body for a drug and is commonly related to resistance. The second type is of psychological dependence, which is measured by the emotional and mental preoccupations for the absence of the medication. There are mainly four types of drug abuse. This includes not only illegal drugs, but legal too. The first one are depressors. The second one are stimulants, and finally the third ones are the hallucinogens. To understand the mechanism of action of a drug, we need to clarify some terms. For example, pharmacophore. Pharmacophore are the properties that bonds the substance and the receptor. Just because in order for a medicine to function, several characteristics are needed. Some of these characteristics need to be special for the disease and for the person.
The mechanism or the way of action of a drug. Drugs have not only a single effect. Primary effects are the therapeutic ones, and the secondary are the which ones that are harmful to the body. Many times, we only know that a drug is useful against some disease, but we ignore how it acts. Most drugs act by altering various body controls, which may be receptors, enzymes, or ion channels. What is a receptor? A receptor could be defined by a molecular structure inside a cell on its surface that can make a specific union to a substance and has a specific physiologic effect that accompanies the binding. Some examples could be complement fragments, immunoglobulins, peptides, antigens, neurotransmitters, and ACH receptors are the ones that are related to Alzheimer, Parkinson, and smoking cessations. Cigarette smoking harms nearly every organ in the human body. With neuroimaging technology, scientists can see the dramatic effect of cigarette smoking on the brain and the body. we can see a marked decrease in the levels of monoamine oxidase, an important enzyme that is responsible for the breaking down of dopamine. Smoking causes many lung diseases like chronic bronchitis and emphysema, and it has been found exacerbate asthma symptoms in adults and children. Also, it increases the probabilities of having lung cancer. About 90% of all deaths from chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases are attributed to cigarette smoking.
According to the World Health Organization, the tobacco is the second leading cause of death worldwide. In Mexico, it is considered that 90% of population uses tobacco, and of this, 21.6% correspond to men and 17.7% to women. Also, it is important to consider that 3 out of 10 students between 30 and the 10% of Mexican population die annually because of attribute to the use of tobacco diseases. Meanwhile, in the USA, 17 of every 100 adults currently smoke cigarettes. More than 16 million of Americans live with a smoking disease. The range of age in which tobacco is more consumed is between 25 to 44 years. Men are more likely to be smokers than women.
In 2012, 21% of the global population aged 15 and above smoked tobacco. Risks such as cancer, leukemia, heart diseases need to be taken into consideration. But in addition to these health damages, we can also have economic damages that are a result of the treatments for tobacco addictions. In Mexico, 80,500 millions are invested on treatments for nicotine addicts. According to the Tobacco Atlas, 15.8% of boys and 16% of men were active smokers. 10.1% of deaths were caused. On the other hand, we observe a decrease on the rate of deaths produced by tobacco in the United States, reaching the 19.2% of the same, and talking about smokers, just 2.1% of boys and 17.2% of adults are active smokers. Mexico also have created legislations for this problem. In May 30 of 2008, it was published in the official diary of the Federation the General Law for the Control of Tabacism, saying that turned into a reality. It was approved 19 days after, and later published in regulation. We can see that there is a real and similar relation between the US and Mexico. Both countries have a relative high score on addiction to tabacism and death because of this, notwithstanding that the US has a little higher rates. We conclude that the very similar data may be a result of the very similar globalized culture that we have, but both governments are applying and thinking about new ideas to decrease the rates of deaths and active smokers.